Okay, so good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Good morning, sir.
Okay, good morning, Sahil. So is the
Good
previous
morning, sir.
on?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, good morning, good morning. So is the previous class still going on?
Few children are asking their doubts.
Okay. Okay, anyways, I think we can get started. Let me share my screen. Okay, good morning, everyone again. So let's get started. So in the last class, we discussed about some chemical locha in the mind, right? So that is the cognitive aspect, how the mind process the information, how the mind process or probably interpret the information and so on. Which are the information are easier to probably follow, which are probably difficult to follow. So we specifically we discuss about cognition. So why it is important to understand in SCI, because in a way you are going to build interactive product, right? And for the success of any such project, it is required that you understand the limitation or probably uh, the which are easy for the people to follow, for human to follow. So that's why we need to consider that. So we have also discussed somehow how the cognition has been applied to the different interaction models. So some of them will be covering in today's class as well. So this is an overview. So in a
First off, what am I
we have
looking at?
also
It's just scribbles.
if
This is math class. Bro, I don't even know what this is. All right, I'm calm down. Hold on.
often
I'm
you
just trying
don't
to,
know what to do. I mean, you
I'm
try
trying
to recall the
to
solution
figure
of
this,
something, right?
figure this
So
out.
your mind says, okay, so
Well,
you should
I
focus on,
tried. Time to cheat.
right?
No, it's not. He's looking directly at me.
He's
Okay,
going to
okay, hold on.
focus on, and okay,
All
so
right, you know
let's
what?
see how you
Forget
focus.
about it. I'm just visualize what I
Try to
study. I
visualize.
study for this. I know I studied for this. All right. So okay, I came in the room. All right. Yep. I remember opening up that tab and wait.
So he need the
What do
formula.
you?
The probably you try to recall,
Okay.
but
Let
the
me go and
minds
think
are
about
like,
the formula.
oh no, come on.
No! What are you? What are you doing? No! No! What? Get back to work! What are you doing? No! Come on, bro. Come on, bro. I need it. I need this, man. What? Bro! Get up! Get up and study! No! No!
So it happens, right? So many times you try to focus on work, but your naughty mind is like that. That not let you work, right? So I think how many students are here? So I think it's still a few students have joined. Anyways, so the reason I just try to show this video. Firstly, I mean, yeah, you should focus on the work, and secondly, I posted a message on the Google Classroom. I hope you have seen, because I received a numerous complaint. I mean, the people are discussing irrelevant thing in the class, especially in the chat room. So that somehow disturb others, right? So let's be respectful to everyone, be your fellow classmate, and probably the instructor TA as well. So yeah, so just please focus on, if you have to ask, I mean, you are free to ask, right? You are always encouraged to ask questions, but please don't discuss irrelevant thing. Especially, I mean, just don't make it a very long conversation of irrelevant thing, right?
Sir, can you
So
please
just
confirm the
please
syllabus
keep
once?
this in mind. And yeah, so otherwise we don't have any other choice than probably just banning from you the class. So again, most of you are uh, seriously attending and doing very well, so I appreciate that. But this is just for probably a few people who is not still following this, so I request them to please, yeah, so be respectful, be mindful, and so on. Yeah, so someone is saying something, sorry.
Sir, can you please confirm the syllabus once?
Okay, yeah, so I will do. I think the more people are coming, so though I told in the previous class as well, but let more people join. So memory, so we discuss about memory, like involves recalling various kinds of knowledge that allow people to act appropriately. So for example, uh, recognizing someone's face or remembering someone's name, right? So how you do, as we discussed in the previous class, you try to first encode the information that you have, and based on that encoded information, you try to retrieve the knowledge, right? So like if you don't remember everything, it try to involves filtering or processing what is attended to. I mean, how you can use encoded information to retrieve the relevant thing that you're looking for. So if you look at, I mean, often the context is very important to remember or how to recall, like where, when, how, and so on. So one thing probably you can also notice, like we recognize things much better than being able to basically recall the things, because when you recognize the thing, it means you see something, right? So that basically give you some context. So for example, I ask you about, okay, so who are probably the boy you were roaming around? Probably you don't recall, or probably because you may have roamed with so many people, right? But if I give you the picture, like who is this people, or probably uh, who is this people whom you are probably roaming with, right? In that case, I think it is easier to recognize. So we remember basically the less about object that we have photographed, then basically we observe them in the kind of if you see in person, right? So this is I hope you have realized. So how we process information, as we just said, encoding is the first stage of memory. So that determines which information is attended to it in the environment and how it is interpreted. So the more attention is paid to something, for example, if you have seen something, right? So you probably may pay more attention to someone than probably else. For example, probably some boy is going into the party or something, probably he may pay more attention to some girl whom he like as compared to probably other fellow boys, right? So the more it is processed in terms of thinking about and comparing with other knowledge. So similar thing you can see here, like it is more likely to be remembered. So for example, when you're learning SCI, it is kind of much better to reflect upon it, carry out exercise, having discussion with others, so which usually we encourage here. So rather than just writing, probably try to write in addition to just probably reading it. Similarly, you practice it or probably watch the lecture or probably the other videos as well. So that is another reason we try to add some videos in this. So all this basically highlighting the context is very important, because the context kind of provide aids to memory to somehow recall the thing, somehow basically find out the relevant information, or probably help you in recognizing the things earlier or probably in better way. So context affects the extent to which information can be subsequently retrieved. Sometimes it can be difficult for the people to recall information that was encoded in different contexts. So one example given in the book is like, so probably you see one of your neighbors in the train, right? So you may have hard time in recalling who this person is. But if you see the same person probably just in neighbor again, or probably in some community hall beside you, right, in some marriage, I think you may recall early as compared to if you see the person at some unknown places. So often basically the context is important, as you have also seen in this example. So for example, in this case as well, you can see, because often people have hard time in recalling the name as well. So in that note, let me show one video.
Today, India welcomes us at the world's largest cricket stadium right here in Ahmedabad. Namaste. Namaste. Chihuahua, a tea seller, very tough. Pride of Gujarat. As the great religious teacher Swami Vivekananda once said, we will remember it forever.
Yes, we will remember always Trump
And
for whatever
classic
he has
Indian
done,
films like
right? So at least you can see here the probably context basically matters, because for example, it is perfectly fine, right? In a sense, I mean, he is not familiar with probably the Indian names, Of course, I mean, probably we may also have hard time. So we may also have some hard time in probably reading or probably some say American names or even probably some other Japanese or probably Chinese names as well, right? So often it is depends on the context as well. So if we have the better context, if we are more familiar, then probably we may not have probably done that mistake. So for example, here, if we somehow provided some aid to the Trump, so probably he might have not have done this mistake, probably mispronouncing such names, right? So what kind of aid we can provide? Any guess? For example, if you have to help Trump in probably reading those names correctly, what could we have done? Anyone?
So translate like the translation app that give speech according to the region specific languages and words also.
Right. Very
We
nice.
can ask him to use Google Translate.
Maybe we could
No,
use
but
phonetics instead of the
for
word.
the names, I mean, you
phonetics.
cannot use Google Translate, right? I mean, or probably how you'll do the translation. For
No,
example,
actually, if we write Gujarat and he can listen to the pronunciation. No?
right.
और
Maybe
like when we
we
in
could-
Google there's a feature ना कि वो जैसे गुजरात है तो उसको इंग्लिश में गू लिखेंगे then J लिखेंगे
So
मतलब
kind
they
of,
will
I mean,
pronounce
breaking,
it using
so
the
kind of breaking the terms more in as phonetic level, right? So for example, the speech
that's
is
what
made of
Suman
different
was saying.
phonemes. How you can break into the different phonemes, and he can read the phonemes instead of reading the whole words, right? So for example, Swami Vivekanand. So Vivekanand is made of different small phonemes, right? I mean, in that way, probably he may not have committed that mistake. So in a way, if you are probably building such system where probably you're going to some new place and probably some unfamiliar name or probably the something which comes up, ideally your system should be able to help you with that.
We can provide him via Indian translator also.
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
can
sure.
write his.
Yeah, very nice. So, I mean, these are some examples that you can think of. So, for example, try to remember the dates of your grandparents. So, for example, let me take some random name. Who is the lucky person? Aryan S. Verma. What is the date of birth of your grandparent? Amolika, would you like to try? Okay, I think it's very hard, right? But probably let me ask the second question. So try to remember the cover of the last two books you have read, at least the name. Same person, probably different person. What do you think? Which one?
David Seeley or Intellectual Design.
Yeah, very nice. At least I can see some answer, right? So which was easiest and why? So probably
So
the second one.
question. Yeah.
Second one is the easiest. Then why?
It's something in our more recent memory.
Very
I
nice.
remembered the book of the cover when you asked this question.
Very nice. So in a way, you can see the people are good at remembering visual cues about things, right? As compared to probably the just numbers. And secondly, also the recent and probably the old things, right? So for example, you may not have discussed the date of birth of your grandparents recently as compared to probably read the book recently, right? So these are the things, I mean, which are very, very important when you play, when you basically build some interactive system, because often such interactive system require to basically ask or probably provide menus or probably the information based on how you are responding to this, right? So in a way, they find it more difficult to learn or probably remember arbitrary materials, for example, birthday, phone numbers, and so on. But probably it might be easier to recall some scene or something. So recognition versus recall. So which one do you think is easier, recognition or recall?
Recognition.
Right, very nice. So we have also just discussed like command-based interface requires user to recall from memory. That is a kind of a name from possible set of 100 people. So that may be very difficult. But if I, instead of asking you to probably recall the name and type it, instead of, what will be the easier way of doing so, right? What if I just show that 100 names, or probably we show a kind of catalog where basically the name starting from A, name starting from B, and so on. You simply because often you remember, okay, so yaar uska naam to S se tha, but kya tha yaad nahi aa raha, right? So you simply go to S and probably see list of the people whose name starting from S, and you can select the person, right? Right. So in a way, I mean, in this way, you can basically consider the recognition in your system that is providing some kind of interface, visually option like menus, options, icon, through which basically they can recognize the thing instead of giving them mental torture or probably the mental load of asking to, okay, type out the things. And often typing also requires probably may occur some mistakes, right? You may probably type wrongly or probably due to several reasons. Probably you're not suppose if we will ask probably Trump to write the name of Swami Vivekanand, right? If he's not able to pronounce, I mean, do you think how difficult it will be for him to type it? But probably it will be easier for him to probably find out probably the select name of Swami Vivekananda or probably someone else if we just write down or probably give some option in terms of menu or some options, right? So in a way, I mean, that's why when we are building any such system, just try to think what are the things you can provide an option in terms of recognition. So like web browser based tabs and history list or visited URL that support recognition memory. Okay, so often you recall area wo page khola tha wo yaad nahi aa raha. So if you can go to history and recognize that, right, rather than just keep searching, okay yaar ye dala tha to mila tha, wo dala tha to ye mila tha, and so on, right? So the problem with 7 plus minus 2. So there is a very popular theory in SCI that so in active memory, or you can say the working memory, so often the people basically used to have 7 or plus minus 2 items in their active memory. So that is people's immediate memory capacity is very limited to 7 plus minus 2. So for some people it might be probably less, that is 5, or for some people it might be 9. Has been applied to interaction design when considering how many options to display, right? Because if you see here, I mean, the existing theory says that, I mean, how much you can recall. So just show that much information, right? So, but is it good use of theory in SCI? Is it helpful? What do you think?
Yes, sir, it is helpful, sir. It's better to show less screens or options rather than just the number of them, because it will confuse the user.
But can you recall any system that you use? Do you just see 7 options? So, probably let me try something.
That's smart remote.
For example, if I see here or something, like, is it just 7 options I have? For example, if I go to settings, right, can I just see 7 options here? 7 plus minus 2?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Only the basic options when we show at the starting, like we are in the word, so only the main use of options are like which are frequently used, they are shown, and all the subsettings are under that.
Right. So again, so there are a number of study which also kind of contradict this again. So these are some study probably yeah, you can say probably work well in many cases, but it may not work in all cases. So like present only 7 options on a menu is not probably feasible, or probably may not be enough.
Not a hard and fast rule. So
right, exactly. So like display only 7 icons or 7 plus minus 2 and so on. So it's not necessarily when creating an interface that the designer should only follow this. So often it's based on the task to task. So like people can scan list of bullet tabs or menu items for the one they want, right? So they don't have to recall from the memory, having only briefly heard and seen them, right? So you can focus more than 9 at the interface. For instance, the history one I shown. Sometimes a small number of item is good. So for example, it depends on the size of your screen, right? So for example, for smartwatch, you don't see 7 plus minus 2, probably even less, because the screen size is quite small. So it depends on task and available screen state. Yeah, Bhagis, please go ahead.
Sir, don't you think that the 7 plus instead of 7 plus minus 3 approach, we should characterize it in such a manner that the level of complexity that we're displaying the user is more to do with the recognition and the memory of the user? Because
yeah, no, it is indeed, right? So that's why I said, I mean, many people contradict that, right? And this is exactly the same reason. These are exactly the same reason why people think it is not correct. So probably, for example, even if you just follow the rule of 7 plus minus 2, right? in one way, if you recall the previous class, I mean, you show in some structured manner, and in another UI probably just show in just kind of create a mess, right? So often just these 7 plus minus 2 won't work. So you have to probably take care of other stuff as well.
So can we say that the more clutter the experience is for the user, the more memory loss or the memory loss in using it will take place?
Yeah, I
Like,
think so.
yeah, because you are not letting them recognize specific patterns of use, right?
Yeah, you're right. So often like that create an issue when you are doing some personal information management, because probably you may as a probably customer representative, you may probably meet a number of people. How you basically recall them if the same person probably comes again? Because often happens in office, right? Same person come again and again and say, so what happened with my case? What happened with my case? So one possibility, you just try to find that person by name or something, or often probably your boss mention, okay, so these are the guy, what about his case, is it resolved? First you try to recall, okay, so who was the person, what was the name, and so on. A lot of things happen, right? So it is difficult to remember when you have like if it is for a few, I mean, you can probably recall the numbers or probably the phone, or probably you can put all the files in a structured manner, you can find it, right? If it is I mean too much, in that case probably you need some organized way of doing so. So because unorganized, if you're putting the details in unorganized way, it is very difficult for you to find out. I don't know if you have faced the issue. So for example, if you're looking for some files, right, you don't know where you have kept it. It is very difficult to probably find out from a computer where you have huge amount of probably the files, probably the music file or probably the audio or text file, right? So because they probably don't follow some structure, right? You just kept the information somewhere else. But if you probably put or organize your files in a more structured way, for example, you put all the files in just a folder called music, where you have all the music. Similarly, you put all the files which probably have images, probably in some image folder, and so on, right? So in a way, I mean, if you follow or probably the group information in some semantic way, I mean, probably it will be easier for you to follow. So for example, the image folder can be further categorized into, say, year wise. So because often you remember कि यार 2002 में एक picture लिया था, but you don't have any structured way of doing so, right? So अगर आप you probably the structure the folder in year wise or probably the location wise or trip wise, it will be easier for you to follow, because you narrow down the search space to a smaller number, which probably your mind then further can focus on probably and select the relevant information, right? So how might such a process be facilitated, taking into accounts people's memory ability by just giving that much option which the human memory can basically process. So for example, in this case, you can see, so how to decide what stuff to keep. So because many times you have huge amount of information, right? So as we have mentioned, you need to encode the information in order to retrieve. So when you do the encoding, you don't encode by keeping all the information. Probably you just encode by some relevant information, right? So that is decide what stuff to keep. Next is how to organize it into some, how to organize it when storing. So that storing could be, as we have discussed, it could be in some semantic way, or probably some semantic, you can say the information way. So it could be in the form of folder, location, year, or probably something else. Similarly, what strategies to use it to retrieve it later? So simply first go follow some hierarchy, right? So just probably find the images, then you don't have to look at others, then probably find the year, then probably find the friend or probably X, whatever you had, right? So like most common approach is to use folders and naming. Again, so naming is very important, because if you just put the files like in the order, so for example, you might have seen if you capture pictures from your camera or digital, so what is the file name usually you have?
Sir, some number with .jpg.
Right?
नहीं
So,
सर डेट एंड टाइम भी होता है उसमें.
right. But often you can see those numbers are some like may not carry too much information, right? But what if you want to rename in such a way, यार ये वाला भागेश का पिक्चर था, ये वाला probably शगुन का पिक्चर था, ये वाला probably आयुष का पिक्चर था, and so on, right? So that will be even easier. Then it will be easier, probably you can find such people, right? So search engines basically only helpful if you know the name of the file, and often you don't have that, or probably even that is just the generic names which you can think of. So smart search engines basically help you in listing relevant files for the potential name or when. So for example, what if you're building an app, right? So that is for the image management, right? So because if you recall, so if you have a look at the old mobiles, right, they don't organize the pictures and they don't organize the picture in any way. So you simply just keep taking the picture, they just keep in your probably the mobile, right? But now at least you can see, you can sort the pictures in mobile even by the person, if in some high-end mobiles like Apple or so, right? Have you seen that?
सर गूगल फोटोज में भी होता है ऑप्शन कि
Right.
फेस रिकॉग्नाइज होते हैं.
Right. So in a way, I mean, yeah, so that means, I mean, in order to facilitate user, you need to reduce the cognitive load of the user. You have to basically provide different features so that the users can basically work out. Okay, so why still, I mean, very less number of students today?
Perhaps because the midsem is approaching.
Okay, but today's class is the part of midsem, right? They don't need to prepare. Anyways, yeah, so I think the whatever the student have to appear is already here. So yeah, so whatever we are covering till today is the part of midsem. We will also post that on the Google Classroom. Yeah, just for your reference, whatever we are covering till today will be the part of midsem.
Sir, so till chapter 4?
Yeah, so whatever we will cover till today.
Okay.
So similarly, like Apple's search tool, you can see, so that not only look into the probably the file name, but probably also inside the file name, probably the content of that basically help you even further. So the memory load is something very, very important when you are doing the cognitive processing, right? Because you want, the aim is to probably put less memory load on the human, right? Put less memory load on the human and probably facilitate in some way so that they can recognize the thing rather than remember the thing or recall the things. So like in this case, online mobile or the phone banking now requires user to provide multiple pieces of information to access their accounts. For example, zip code, birthday, and so on, right? So for example, I don't know if I've given this example here or probably somewhere else. So for example, when you want to do some transaction, right? So in the transaction, you need to write the name of the place probably where you have born, because some of the security questions that you set up while creating your account. So for example, I'm from Banaras, right? In that case, I mean, if you write your security answer as Banaras, right? But I set up this question probably long time back. So now I'm going to do some transaction, right? Now I'm going to do some transaction and probably I just wrote Varanasi. What do you think? What system will do? Will it allow me to do the transaction?
No, sir, it won't allow.
No, sir.
It should not allow.
No, sir.
So because आप वाराणसी हो, ये बात बहुत लोगों को पता हो सकती है, तो कुछ ऐसा यूनिक होना चाहिए जो.
Because the system can't differ between Banaras and Varanasi.
Very nice. So what about while writing setting up my security question, I write capital B and rest of the letters in lowercase. They usually the way you write your name, some proper noun, right? How about while currently I just writing everything lowercase like Banaras, or probably everything in uppercase? How about now? I mean, in both cases I'm writing Banaras, but probably in first case the first letter is in uppercase, and in second case everything is in lowercase.
So even though it's a drawback, I think we just have to remember what we wrote at the time.
So it will help so that others won't guess your password.
It's a trade off, sir. मतलब जरूरी तो है ना, तो इतना करना ही पड़ेगा.
Right. So
मतलब for better functionality, जैसे security का otherwise मतलब वो कम हो जाएगा ना, तो इतना शायद करना पड़ेगा. Plus important चीज होती है बैंक की चीजें.
Yes, you don't easily forget it. याद रहता है हमें कि ऐसे लिखा था.
नहीं, often you recall कि तुमने बनारस लिखा था, but बनारस upper case में लिखा था, lower case में लिखा था, you don't recall, right?
So sir,
But there are many application or inbuilt mobile function where you can store your passwords or something.
And
but
sir,
will
while
it safe? Is it safe? I mean,
Yes,
ऐसे तो
sir.
यार अभी
Yes, sir. It is.
toolkit वाला case हो जाएगा, right? Someone will just get your password.
Sir, it is stored in
उसके बाद फिर-
encrypted form.
right? नहीं, encrypted
While
चाहिए
we
इतना
And
can't
you
नहीं.
have to
really say
remember
whether
just
it
a
is
single password, then you can open that.
sir, while setting the password, if we restrict that only the password can be written in lower case, तब तो कोई upper case में लिख ही नहीं पाएगा, तब सबको याद रहेगा.
So that is something, I mean, you need to provide. So that's a very valid point, basically. So what you can do whenever you are writing something, right? So system will always save in the say lowercase, despite you writing in uppercase. So especially when you go in the probably second year or third year, or even, I mean, if you study the natural language processing NLP course by yourself, even machine learning, right? So when you deal with NLP, right? So this is one of the very common thing, because people can write in different ways, uppercase, lowercase. So that's why they need to do a lot of pre-processing. That is, pre-processing means before starting main processing, you need to do some pre-processing and store the information. So what happens in NLP? They store all the information in lowercase. So अभी मैं भागेश लिखूंगा तो भी B small में लिखूंगा, right? Or probably anything. बनारस लिखूंगा तो भी B small में लिखूंगा. So in a way that will be easier for the system to probably, yeah, so understand, okay, so you mean the same thing. Again, I mean, it depends on probably the sensitivity of the application as well, but in most cases, at least in NLP, we try to pre-process the information. One of the such pre-processing is keeping everything in lowercase, and then probably do whatever the processing you want to do, right? So in a way, I mean, the idea is, I mean, how we can reduce the memory load. So are you agree that somehow if I keep everything in lowercase, it has somehow reduced the memory load for the person, whether I wrote in the uppercase or lowercase, मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है, right? So this is just one instance. You can think of many others. So often happens like digital forgetting. So forgetting is easy, right? But can you forget everything digitally? So for example, you were in relation with someone, right? खूब picture डाला है Instagram पे, right? उसके बाद अब क्या हुआ कि I mean, now you keep probably you done breakup, now you are basically in relation with someone else, but you forgot to remove all the photos of the previously, or probably at least some photos. You try to remove some, but somehow एक छूट गया, right? Is there any way to you remove those? Is there any way you can probably you can provide a user to probably manage them, whatever the data it had? So for example, often you see the politician, right? I mean, when they were in a position, they opposing something, be it petrol price, be it like FDI, be it like anything, right? But when they come to the part of the government, they probably keep supporting the same thing, and somehow they forget, or probably it may not be probably possible for them to remove the old post, old images, old digital information that you have, right? So ideally, I mean, for them it will be easier, and that's why probably the person, or probably the party who is in opposition now, they try to get the old tweet or something, old probably the information of something, and try to show, okay, so look what you have said probably 5 years earlier, 10 years earlier, and probably 20 years earlier, right? So it means, I mean, if you are providing services to such people, I mean, they might want to find out like what you said earlier. So is there any way you can probably reduce the, you can say the digital for somehow help the digital forgetting thing and so on?
Sir, a lot of the times when we are posting photos with someone else, we tag them, we tag their account or whatever.
Exactly, but many times it is not possible, right? So for example, in Instagram, how many people you can tag? Suppose
About
we have a class
20.
of 300, right? We are taking a picture, a group picture. You cannot tag every 300 people. Similarly, on Twitter, you can just tag 10 people and so on. And often people don't tag, right?
Yes, but like no, you were just saying the reference of
Okay.
the partner which you
Got
wanted
it.
to remove.
Yeah, I got it.
Just because of that, maybe we could, like, if we are deleting everything with just them tagged,
Right.
then
So
we'll
that
have a
could be,
better
yeah,
idea.
so that could be one solution, but again, that may not be the perfect solution. So it means probably you need to probably come up with something else. Okay. So this is one example. So how it means we have to somehow, we have to help the user in order to recall the things, in order to provide some aids to the user. So for example, let's see how we can provide memory aids to probably Gajni, not Gajni, I mean Amir Khan. So how you can help with the person with short-term memory loss? So any guess why the tag remove t-shirt has been placed near the probably the tab? And why everything is written in probably reverse way? Any guess?
Because sir,
Mirror image.
So kind of, I mean, here the producer has done very well job, right? At least probably the people who made, so that reduce the cognitive load of the person who is suffering from short-term memory loss, right? Because often when the people wake up, probably they go and wash their mouth or hand and so on, right? So that is where that's why near the tab they put the sticker, right? Remove the t-shirt, right? And now the person is recalling everything, so that he can do all those stuff, find Gajni, and to find Gajni, and so he can do all those stuff, get him motivated and so on, right? So what are the things what you do to aid your memory? So for example, let me ask some random names, or probably you can raise your hand who want to answer. So for example, Bhavya. Yeah, so what do you do to, I mean, aid your memory or probably to remember the things? Mehul, would you like to try?
Sir, try to remember things which were related. Anything which connects to that memory.
Okay. Sarthak, would you like to try?
Sir, like I've seen this many cases, like so what they mostly do is like they'll put a lot of post-it notes everywhere wherever they do, like like drink water before bed and all those, go to sleep at this time. There have been cases like within even half an hour itself they'll forget. It's kind of terrible actually seeing the condition of those people and their parents.
Exactly. So how do you recall them? I mean, some meeting is there. How do you recall our class start from 11 a.m. on probably Monday and Wednesday?
So
Reminders we can set.
Reminders with many tasks and subtasks.
Sure, like a notification we have in the display, in a phone display, we also show the.
Very nice.
So we can use Google Assistant for it.
But sir, there are 2-3 types of things we like to recall. Some things are like things from the past experiences, and some things are routine. So routines would require reminders, and things from the past would require something like a journal or something like that.
Sia, you would like to add something? I saw you raised hand.
We have to relate some with other things so that we can easily remember the things.
Nice. Yeah, Sia?
So I use sticky notes, like I put the schedule
Very
of my
nice.
and then put it on my table, and then I can easily remember because I am always sitting on my table.
So that was the reason. That is the reason. I hope you see the computer, basically laptop, or even the mobile, even the tablet, basically provide the sticky notes, and they look exactly the way you use sticky note in your real life, right? And even the way they provide you the strike option rather than just deleting, I mean, they also provide you strike option. Which one you think is better, or you can say pleasing, the striking out or the deleting option?
Striking.
Why?
Because
it feels like
gives
they've accomplished
us
the
a sense
task.
of completion of
Very
achieving
nice.
our goal.
Yeah, very nice. Firstly, I mean, relate with the way you do in real life, because every time, I mean, we try to relate with the way human behave, right? And secondly, I mean, give you some, you can say the pleasure, right? Or probably the complacency, like in a sense, okay, so you at least finish 3 tasks. अब कितना करना है? For example, 10 विदानी है, right? You have seen the movie. अब 10 tasks उसको करने हैं, I mean, yeah, so he keeps striking out and probably. So that's in a way, I mean, whole idea is to somehow provide the aids to memory, so that that be for reminder, that be for doing something, that be for, yeah, so probably assisting in completing in between and so on.
Sir, in order to help such people, we can also keep in mind that there are two type of functions, right? The motor functions that are usually stored inside a person, so you need not think about them. But you can always develop a system that provides context, that can be useful for these people, like something like a watch. So depending on the time of the day, you can provide some notifications in that watch, providing some
Exactly.
context about the events going on around them, even
Right.
according to location, according to the conversations they are having. So context providing will help a lot.
Right. Yeah, very nice. So in a way, yeah, so there are several such things are there. So there is one such memory built by the Microsoft research is called SenseCam. So in a way, you have camera and probably keep capturing everything, and that basically also probably can tag the information, and based on that you can try to recall the things. So it may have some digital implication as well. So how to reduce the cognitive load by avoiding long and complicated procedure for carrying out our task. So design interfaces that promote recognition rather than recall. So when you are building any interactive system, try to consider that, right? Because as you have just seen, recognition are easier as compared to recalling things, right? So that's why you try to promote recognition. That's why the menu and probably other stuff has been added. Similarly, probably find, so for example, one of the, I don't know you have seen, but once you come at Triple IT Delhi, you'll see access to some printer, right? So in the printer, you can do scanning, you can do probably printing, and probably a lot of stuff you can do, right? So often what happens, so after scanning, often you need to send the file to or email you the things, right? One way you can write them, but again, that may lead to the firstly take more time, inconvenient for the people, as well as that may have some mistake while writing, right? So the recognition, how you can provide, just show the name of the people who have been entered to the, you can see the printer, and since your name starting from say R, Rajiv, right? So I simply go to the R and select the name, and you can quickly do without doing any mistake. Because when you're building any interactive system, you also have to see what are the places people often do mistake, right? So you have to also reduce that, right? And often the people do mistake where there is a kind of a lot of load on the memory, right, on the human brain. So for example, often typing something when there is a confusion, and why the confusion come, right? When you probably something is probably you're putting a lot of load. Okay, so my name is Rajiv, but whether it was Rajiv or RajEev, right? So that may lead you, because that confusion may lead you to even commit some mistakes and so on. So the next part is learning. So learning basically involves the accumulation of the skills, knowledge involving memory. So there are two main types of memory learning. So one is the incidental learning. So that is, for example, recognizing people's face when what you did today. And second is the intentional learning. So for instance, you're studying for exam, learning and trying to cook and so on. So which one do you think is easier, incidental or the intentional?
Incidental.
Is it? So intentional learning is kind of much harder, because you're forcing the brain to probably follow this, follow that, and learn and recall and so on. Incidental is often, yeah, so you just see in the purple, right? And in a way, you And also the incidental is something which is recent thing you are going to deal with. So in a way, I mean, in that case, if you look in that aspect, yeah, intentional learning is a bit much harder as compared to incidental. So often, yeah, so it also depends on the accuracy, right? So if you recall the things very well, or probably you mug up the things very well, intentional learning will be probably more accurate as compared to incidental, right? Because incidental, yeah, so you may not able to probably recall the things which is very old, right? So in a way, incidental learning is from somehow support recognition, and intentional learning is more about recalling the things. So since recognition is easier as compared to recalling the things, so somehow you can say the intentional learning is much harder as compared to incidental. So people find it hard to probably learn by following instruction in a manual. People prefer to learn by doing. So learn by doing is probably more, you can say, the recognizing thing. So design interface that encourage exploration, that you have to keep in mind. Design interface that constrain and guide learners, so that you, while performing any task, you need to help. Okay, so for example, when you withdraw the money, so it keeps giving you different steps, right? Okay, so first put your pin, then probably select like would you like to withdraw the money, or probably check the money, or probably what are the other stuff which are there, and dynamically linking concepts and represent that can facilitate the learning of complex materials. So dynamically linking concept basically help you to basically perform some analogy with probably the unfamiliar analogy from the probably some familiar task that you have done with the probably the unfamiliar task that you're doing. So dynamically linking concept is somehow helping you in performing better learning and so. So another thing you can do, like reading, speaking, and listening. So the ease with which people can read, listen, or speak differs, because many people prefers to listen instead of reading. So reading can be quicker than speaking or listening, right? Or no? Which one do you think is more accurate? Similarly, listening requires less cognitive effort than probably reading or speaking. And dyslexics have difficulties understanding and recognizing written words, right? So in a way, I mean, it depends on people to people, but often in general, like listening is easier as compared to reading the stuff, right? Or
Sir,
is it
what
not?
is dyslexics?
Dyslexics is kind of people suffering from some kind of, it's basically the name of, you can say, some uh, disease, I would say, or something, right? So where people have difficulty in understanding and recognizing written words. I'm not sure whether in the movie Tare Zameen Pe,
Yes, sir.
was he suffering from the same?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
sir. It
Sir,
it
he was suffering from
in her
dyslexia.
mind, all the character like shown like a dancing character,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah.
So in a way, I mean, if it is difficult for him to read or probably write, right, or probably recognize things, so in that case, if you just say the things, kind of, if you listen the things, then probably he may be able to, yeah, probably perform better. So in a way, you need to consider the limitation of the user and accordingly provide the solution. So applications are like voice over interface allow user to interact with them by asking questions. So Google Voice, Siri, Alexa, and many others now provide that option. Speech output systems use kind of artificially generated speech. So like text to speech system for the visually impaired, right? Have you used any text to speech system?
सर सर विंडोज में narrator ऑप्शन होता है जो which is like act like a speech output system.
Okay, very nice. But what is the limitation? Suppose you have generated that text to speech, right? Have you seen any limitation of that?
The pronunciation frequency in which it's played and the
Accent.
language.
Accent.
There is no emotion to the text.
Very nice. So for example, and another thing, it will be more deterministic, right? So for example, if probably person A, so for example, Sumit will write, how are you? The same lady will say the same thing, right? But probably Bhagesh will write, or probably Aditya, or probably someone else will write. I mean, yeah, so it will probably the same thing, right? So, and secondly, yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, it may not have the emotion. So in that case, what do you think is the required? So do you think you need to make it more personalized so that you feel it probably? So for example, what if you provide a system where the how are you is kind of generated in the way you speak? Will you prefer that system or probably the existing system? So I'm sure, I mean, you prefer the personalized one, right? So natural language system basically enables user to type in question and give text-based responses. So chatbots. So again, probably you prefer some personalized chats, right? So for example, you are interacting with chatbot with some agent, right? If chatbot just say hi, or the chatbot say hi Sia, which one you prefer? Probably the Sia prefer the second one, right? And like it basically personally addressing to me, right? So in a way you can see making it personalized, basically often people feel more comfortable, or probably people feel prefer more as compared to just a generic one, right? So how you can do the personalization? Simply, right? So for example, often these days every user have their mobile number which is kind of treated as. So for example, yesterday I was calling to American Express regarding my credit card, and so just based on the number I'm calling, they recognize this is me, and they basically help me immediately with all the stuff, and they know who am I speaking, right? So in a way you can probably provide some personalized stuff in building any interactive system. So be it like call center, be it like doctors, be it like, so for example, the example I was giving, right? Suppose you are visiting to some office to probably get some old work done, which you are visiting many times. Ideally, they don't need to probably ask everything. What was your issue, right? Rather, they should recall everything. Okay, so where you were last time, how much the progress has been done, and accordingly they recognize everything, what was the issue and so on, right? Which one you prefer? Of course, the second one, right? So when you are building any such system, so for example, if you're building a complaint-based system, do you think, I mean, such kind of thing will be useful there? So that you don't need to tell your complaint again and again to every new agent who is going to deal with you. Rather, they should pick up what is your current progress, what was your complaint, what is the current status of the complaint, what has been done so far, and so on. Right?
Sir, I think they use like numbers, right? Complaint number to reference everything.
Yeah. So again, complaint number is something often. Have you seen any complaint number? It is something like ABCD, Z 1 3 4 5 and blah 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 number. Yes. Do you think? Firstly, I mean, these are very difficult to read and probably type out, right? I think it will be easier if you just they detect automatically again. So that detection can be done anyway. So for example, they just match by my voice, that may match by biometric, that may match by mobile number. What could be? You can think of many other stuff.
Sir, also, sir, when you are going for a service that is internationally linked, that is first you're talking to a person within your own country, then you seek the help of somebody abroad. So then the system gets even more tough because you can't even explain your complaint properly because of the language constraint. And because you have to repeat the whole thing again, you also get frustrated because of that human factor in between. So there should be some accountability for that.
Yeah, so I recall the story of my friend. He went to Japan, right? And probably he was just काम चलाओ इंग्लिश बोलता था. अब उसको पेट में दर्द हो रही है, बोला मरोड़ रहा है. अब मरोड़ रहा है, उसको कैसे बोलूं? I mean, so right, so it's often very difficult, right? I mean, so there you should probably provide some support for such kind of thing, right? And so on. So yeah, in a way, I mean, speech-based menu and instruction should be short, right? So for example, if you're calling any system, it should be very short. It shouldn't keep asking you so many stuff. It simply asks, okay, so 1, if you want probably billing related information, 2, if you probably want to speak to customer care, 3, if you probably have something else, and so on, right? So in a way, I mean, we need to consider when you're building some speech-based system, yeah, again, you have to see how you can reduce the cognitive load and probably help user. So provide opportunity for making text larger on a screen if you're dealing with the text. So So all these basically the problem solving, planning, reasoning, and decision making. So all these process involve reflective cognition. So for example, thinking about what to do, what the options are, and what are the consequences would be. So often involves some conscious process, discussion with others or oneself, and the use of some artifact like such as maps, books, pen, and paper. So that may also involve working through different scenarios and deciding which one is the best. And finally, you weighing up different alternative to decide which one to take. Okay, so it seems a lot of chat is going on. Syllabus till today or Friday. I just said until today, so there is no class on Friday, right? Okay.
So, sir,
Mhm.
sir,
Mhm.
on Friday for whole the session is gone not held or for your class only?
No, there is no class on Friday, right? Or is there any class on Friday,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
right?
So
Okay.
maths sir has like till now told us we didn't have many lectures of theory till now today. So
Okay, so that the math one instructor will decide. So for our case, what we are covering till today will be the part of syllabus. So the idea is use simple and memorable functions to support rapid decision and probably the planning. And how you can do so by probably uh, promoting the recognition, reducing so recall, providing option to the user whenever it is possible so that they can just select the thing, that is do some recognition rather than writing, or probably uh, rather than recalling the things. Often you should try to think of the cases where the people do commit a lot of mistakes. So you need to probably try to replace the recalling part there by probably sub promoting the recognition part there by providing some option menu or probably something else. So often the app mentality is making it worse for the people to make their own decision because they are becoming risk averse. So instead of now they rely on the multitude of apps, this makes them kind of increasingly anxious. They are unable to make decision by themselves. So often you need to also think about, so how much your app should provide, right? So similarly, like they need to resort the looking into info, getting others opinion on social media and comparing the notes. So for example, if you buy some item, right, so what all the information your app should provide, right? Can it help in comparing the different notes? Can it help you in probably comparing different features, price, and probably other stuff? So for example, it might happen to you. So when decide which university school to attend, so probably before joining Triple IT Delhi, you might have probably compared with other options that you might have. You might have probably done something, right? So often these dilemma is there. So again, it's kind of when you're building any system, you need to consider all those points. So the cognitive framework, in such a way, so these are used to explain and predict user behavior at the interface. So based on the theories of behavior, focus on the mental process that take place, and also the use of artifacts and the representation. So the most well-known models are mental models, gulfs of execution and evaluation, distributed cognition, and the external and embodied cognition. So we will try to see what these different models are, how do they work. So mental models are basically the user develop an understanding of a system through learning about it, through using it. Because often when you play some game, right? So often you learn by playing it, like using it. So how it works, how the whole features are there, and so on. So knowledge is sometimes described as the mental model. So how to use the system and probably what to do next. Similarly, what to do with unfamiliar system or unexpected situation, how the system works. So because when you're playing the games, often some unexpected situation come to you, right? So what to do in there? I mean, this is something often you apply by the mental model that you have. So for example, if you're probably playing a probably fire some 4G or some other kind of game, so often some if your fellow soldier is there, you don't kill them, right? You don't shoot them. But instead, when some enemy comes in front, then probably you'll shoot the person. Or probably if there is some he has bumped, then probably you want to probably hide yourself and accordingly play, right? So you need to think of how to save yourself, and often you try to apply some analogy while dealing with such unexpected situation, right? So people make kind of inferences using the mental model how to carry out different tasks. So Craig described the mental model as so internal construction of some aspect of the external world enabling prediction to be made. So it's more formal definition, but in a way you have seen the idea is involve unconscious and the conscious process, imaginary as analogies so that they are activated and they help you to basically complete the task. So basically deep versus shallow models, for example, how to drive a car and how it works, right? So when you focus on driving a car, you do not want to focus too much like how the gear changes. When the gear changes, then what happens when you rotate the wheels or probably the steering, then what happens, how the, so probably you don't want to go into that much detail. So often you probably focus on more on the mainly on the probably the abstract part of driving. So everyday reasoning and the mental models, as you can see, so you arrive at home, cold winter, what to do, how you can increase the temperature. Similarly, if you come to home, if you're hungry and something is there in the fridge, how you can quickly probably cook the food and so on. So all these basically based on the mental model that you have seen in the past, right? How to do, what to do, everyday reasoning that you perform, and accordingly you can get it done. So these are the example of heating up a room or oven that is thermostat controlled. So how you can basically heat up the room or probably cook the pizza, something which is there. So based on the mental model, you can basically perform. So one key thing to focus here, most of us have erroneous mental model. So how this erroneous mental models come up? So because what happens, you basically learn the driving by your fellow friends instead of the instructor, right? What will happen? I mean, probably if you don't learn probably from the instructor, you will learn probably something wrong, right? Because your friend is probably, he learned from another friend, and probably his another friend probably learned from another friend, right? So often the error propagates, right? When the error propagates, then finally, have you seen, I recall one example. In fact, there is a game, and there are probably 50 people in a circle, right? One person probably say something, a kind of whisper in the next person's ear, okay, something. The next person hear that and whisper the same thing in the next person. Have you played this game, by the way, anyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what is the final outcome?
So we something tell to the other person, but at the last the sentence is changed. Whole sentence is changed, but we
Right.
don't.
Right.
It propagates
So
and it leads to a big error.
right. So in a way, you can see, I mean, there is some kind of erroneous mental model can happen, right? Because you can relate the same analogy with the driving, right? So probably you may have learned something wrong, right? So you also have to keep in mind so that the people don't learn the wrong thing. If they learn something, how you can correct them. So a lot of people hit the button for elevator and pedestrians crossing at least twice. So have you done that? Probably you press one button for going up and the lift is not coming. Have you pressed the button more than once? Then कि यार फिर से दबा देते हैं शायद जल्दी आ जाए.
Yes.
Sir.
तो उससे जल्दी आ जाता है क्या?
No.
Right? So it's more kind of, yeah, erroneous mental model. It won't come fast. I mean, even though you press many times, right? So, but yeah, so people do. So you have to see, I mean, how you can basically provide a user's understanding of how the interactive devices work, and let them basically to deal with probably they don't have scope of probably performing erroneous mental model. So how can the user experience be designed to help people build better mental models? So it should be, if it is clear and easy to use instruction, it will be easier for them. appropriate tutorials and the contextual sensitive guidance, then probably they don't commit the mistakes. Provide online videos and the chatbot window that when needing help, right? Because you may need help anytime. So is there any way to help you with that? Yeah, so provide some in terms of FAQs, in terms of probably some other ways of providing information. Transparency, so that to make interface intuitive to use. Affordance of what actions and interface allows. So like swapping, clicking, selecting, what are the stuff you can do. So I think with this note, I think we can end here, and because some of the rest slides are there, so you can have a look. Let me probably just skim through this, and you can have a look, because probably the major part we have completed. These are just probably some other thing you can keep in mind. So bridging the kind of, so the next part is the gulf of execution and evaluation. So when I say the gulf is kind of, you can say there is some gap that you want to fill in, right? So the gulf of execution is about distance from user to physical system. So that is from the user to physical system. And the gulf of evaluation is about the physical system to the user. So in a way, the gulf of execution is about how do I use this system? So how we can basically provide all those information clearly with probably a lot of mental load, just to facilitate everything. How do I use this system? And the next part is how the current system works. So that is about the gulf of evaluation. So in a way, you can see how you process information. So you have the input, you encode it, you compare with, probably to perform some analogy. Then probably you have some response selection, and finally the response execution, and you can give the output or response to the user. So limitations are, so based on the modeling mental activities that happen exclusively inside the head. So often they do not adequately count for how many people interact with the computers and the other devices in the real world. So the last, probably the second last, is the distributed cognition. So that is about concerned with the nature of cognitive phenomena across individual artifact, internal and external representation, because often you transform through different media, you get information from different media like computers, probably the papers, head, and so on. So how you basically distribute in a sense, you are getting information, you are getting basically the perceiving information from many places. How you, that is it is distributed, right? It is distributed, and how you can accumulate all those information and probably make a final call. So that is about distributive cognition. So this could be an example, right? So and in a way, there will be probably more people, more devices are involved. So in this case, you have air traffic controller who gives some control. Okay, so now you can clearance to the pilot to fly higher altitude, verbal, he just speak. And after listening to this, the pilot basically altitude alert setting knob. So that is, pilot changes the altitude meter, and after that, captain just observe this, whether the pilot is doing correct or not. Once the pilot has done so, so captain flies to the higher altitude, and probably some mental and the physical activities happen, right? So in a way, you can see this is the example of distributed cognition, where more than one people are involved, more than one devices are involved to complete the overall task. So what's involved? So distributed problem solving that takes place. So the role of probably the verbal, non-verbal behavior, or it could be even more. And the communication that take place as the collaborative activity progress. So like in this case, the pilot, captain, and ACT involved. So how knowledge is shared and accessed, this is something happen. And finally, the last one, I guess, the external cognition. So concerned with the explaining how we interact with the external representation, such as maps, notes, or diagram that have given, how they extend the cognition, how they help you in that, and what are the cognitive benefits, and what the process involved if you have the additional external representation, such as maps, notes, and diagram. What technologies can be developed to help people carry out the complex task, for example, like learning, problem solving, and decision making, and so on. And so that basically, it can also externalize the reduce the memory load. So for example, you put basically notes, calendar, shipping list, to-do list, that basically help you to recall the things. Probably you need to provide alert what to do, and in a way, basically that also reduce the memory load. and similar like remind us what to do, remind us what to do something, and exactly other stuff that you can do. So for example, in this case, if I ask you to perform 234 into 456, right? So I think this one is easier to perform as compared to this one, right? Suppose, because this is also 234, this is also 456. But suppose instead of this line, if I have given you just this line, so in your mental processing, what you have done, you might have converted this number to 234, this number to 456, and then perform the computation. So in a way, you can basically do all those stuff. You probably do some change of representation as well while doing so. I think that with this note, I think we can stop here. These are just probably some additional slides you can have a look. So in summary, so cognition involves many processes, including attention. We have discussed in great details in the last class. Memory, we have discussed today as well as in the previous class. Perception, we have discussed in detail in the last class. And learning is something that we have discussed today. So the way an interface is designed can greatly affect how well the user can perceive, attend, learn, and remember how to do their task. This is very, very important points while building any interactive system. Theoretical frameworks such as like mental models that we have considered, external cognition, so that provides a way how and why people interact with the product. So this can lead to thinking about how to design better product. So with this note, let's end here, and we can have quick presentation from the groups that will be presenting today. So who will be presenting today?
Group 7 has 6.
Group 3_6.
Please tell the name. Whom should I make the co-host?
Sir, me. Yes, sir.
Please repeat.
Sir, yes.
Yes. Okay, so Yash, I made you co-host. Please share your screen. Who's the next person? Who's the next group? Please tell your name.
Sir, group 7_6, Siddhant Singh.
Okay, so Siddhant will be the next person after this. Who's the third group?
Shubham 6_6.
Shubham Lal, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yes, please try to wrap up your presentation in 7 minutes or 8 minutes.
All right, sir.
And that is the same for everyone. Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
Sir, can you just tell the format for the midsem exam after the presentations?
Yeah, we can discuss.
Okay.
So we will be, yeah, so just to pick a note, right? So we will be only having MCQs, don't worry. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm starting, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead, Amulika.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the IHCI presentation of Group 3-6. The members of the group are Amolika Bansal, Shobit Kumar, Srijan Arora, Varisha Singh, and Yash Kumar. The topic for our presentation is agroclimatic zoning with assured price on area-wise optimal specified crops. So first, we start with the double diamond of design. So the double diamond of design has 4 phases, namely discover, define, develop, and deliver. In the discover phase, we define the problem areas and discover where all the changes need to be made. In the define stage, we define the ideas that we wish to implement and what we are doing to solve the problems which have been stated before in the discover phase. In develop, we implement the ideas that we have defined in the define stage. This is an iterative process which requires many revisions and is time-consuming and expensive process. The next stage is deliver, where we deliver the final solution suitable for our target demographics. So the first stage is discover. Over to Vanisha.
Sufficient and sustainable farming incomes. We present to you the problem statement. The Indian farmers want 2 things. First, his income to be sufficient. Second, farming as a profession to be sustainable in the long run. As of now, both of these are under question. The income of the farmers is plagued by high farming cost and non-remunerative prices. The farming industry is threatened by the ever-changing market conditions and the environmental consequences of the long-term implementation of the Green Revolution. Ecological impact of Green Revolution. Ever since the introduction of Green Revolution in the late 1960s, there has been a tremendous increase in the production of food grains in our country, allowing India to become self-reliant in production of food grains. While it is incorrect to criticize the government's implementation, considering the circumstances, now that we have more than self-sufficient in food production, we can look at the ecological impacts that have been brought on by it. The primary ones are degradation of
Yeah,
soil
so
health due to
sorry to
overuse of
interrupt.
fertilizers and
Yeah, so
pesticides.
sorry to interrupt. Just probably you can be quick by just covering the main point rather than just reading everything.
Next slide. These are further links to the articles for further reading. Economic concerns. There are two sides to this issue, both of which need to be looked at. With 80% of farmers having land holdings of less than 2 acres, it is natural that the farmers are desperate need of higher prices in order to increase their net income. With such a large proportion of Indians relying directly on agriculture as their source of income, it is mandatory that their concerns to be looked after. And for the government, in the current system, they declare minimum support price, which can also make it obligatory for the government to buy the food grains from the farmers in the case they aren't able to sell it in the open market. Since the MSP is almost always higher than the actual market price, many farmers choose to sell all their prices to the government, which they have to buy. As a result, the government has a food grain surplus. Over to Yash.
The government's response to this was to introduce the new farm bills, which have become a topic of heated debate. We have attempted to create a harmonious solution that utilizes the vast amounts of real-time data combined with scientific inputs and tries to balance the interests of the farmers, general public, and the environment.
So the next phase is define.
Our idea is exactly what it says on the title. We plan to divide the country into agroclimatic zones where a certain optimal crop decided taking into account the food requirements, water availability, type and quality of soil, climate demographics, and traditional farming knowledge. The government will declare a price at which all those specific crops will be sold in that zone and make it legally binding that all transactions, government or private, take place at that rate. This will allow the cropping patterns to be changed to patterns which mitigate some of the environmental consequences and provide remunerative costs to farmers. The data sources. The following data is collected every year to the granularity of district level or more and can be used to decide which crop is optimal to be grown in that region. These are groundwater table data, hydrological data, meteorological data, data collected from soil health card, current and future requirement of food grains, availability of labor and other resources, traditional cropping knowledge from local farmers. Over to Shobit.
Yeah, so we will use this data to create a backbone on which human factors such as restricting certain crops to certain states, etc. will be laid. This is a long process which will take several iterations to get correct. Once the pattern has been established, the government declares the MSP for the optimum crops in the particular region. Farmers are free to grow what they want, but the crops other than optimum ones, the prices will be decided by the market. By doing this, the government still keeps the private players in the market, which will also reassuring the farmers of their sustained income. Next slide.
The next stage is develop.
So here we need to create a framework of how a model will work. This can be broken into two parts. Part 1, mathematical, based on data analysis and scientific input. Part 2, based on human aspects and inputs, an iterative process which will require multiple iterations to get correct. Over to Srijan.
So, in part 1, we take the data collected every year along with input from agricultural experts on what the requirements and ideal conditions are for growing each crop in question. These parameters will be used to give us a district or other zone-wise distribution of what the ideal cropping patterns are for that particular
यार
zone.
म्यूचुअल फंड की तरह बोलो जिस तरह तेजी से बोलता है and everything is blah 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 blah. यार I mean ideally I mean that's good presentation but don't just read everything. Say first thing and secondly I mean don't use such wordy slides, right? I mean that is not very useful and we won't be able to make it in the given time frame.
The time frame is we checked we were able to finish in the time frame. Can I continue?
No,
Or
I don't think so. But anyways, go ahead.
so we use these parameters to create a new cropping zone. We create so this mapping will be mostly theoretical and will not be used directly. However, it will be used as a base on which the human factors are laid on by the government. The developer will take all the data and create the skeletal model. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the government or whatever user will take this skeletal model, lay upon it the human factors, and then create a final model which will be presented to the farmers. This will change from season to season as demographics can change, and so then the final cropping patterns will be declared, and the final MSPs for each crop will be declared as well. The system can be useful as it can cover more crops such as pulses, oilseeds, and something like cash crops like cotton. Next slide.
So the last stage is deliver.
So again, there are two parts to deliver. The first part will be delivered by us, who are the developers. We'll provide the skeletal model, and we'll be giving it to the user, who is in this case the government. In the second phase, the government will do their own calculations and then deliver the final product, which is the final cropping patterns, to the farmers.
So we finally come to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much, Rajiv sir, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to make this presentation. Also, thanks to all our classmates for taking out the time to attend our presentation.
Yeah, so very nice work and very informative as well. So yeah, so I mean, overall, as I said, right, so overall presentation was very nice. Just when we are writing presentation, I think it's good to have a bit less wordy rather than probably very long text because just think in terms of audience point of view, right? If they have too much text, it will be somehow difficult to follow sometime. But anyways, just a suggestion, and you can probably follow or not follow, up to you. Yeah, so next group, please go ahead. Jatin, any questions?
Sir, is it visible?
Yeah, I can see. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir.
Shall I start?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Group 7-6. Today, I, Bhavya, along with Siddhant and Abhay, are here to present our product, BK Info, a smart way to know banking information. Next. Siddhant. Okay, so let us talk about the banking system in India. We all know that the banking system is getting complex day by day. We have online banking, FD, saving accounts, corporate accounts, and etc. stuff. In this situation, people either don't know what documents to bring, or they even don't have the appropriate knowledge to get some tasks done. But there are other people as well who prefer offline banking, and today we are going to talk about them. Next. Do you see these two pictures? This is what happens every day in branches. You see there are long queues of lines in order getting their work done, or either the employees are not present, which cause a lot of trouble to those having offline banking. Next. So let's talk about what they face. So first we need to know that why do people prefer offline banking? Well, there are two sets of people. First, those who don't have the facility of online banking, that is internet, or they have trust issues in online platform. But they need to they also face lots of problems while offline banking, such as long queues. They can't find the employees inside the bank, bringing right documents, knowledge about banking related stuff, etc. Next. So who are these people who are the target audience of a product? Well, we had a major focus on elderly and poor people living in rural communities and urban communities where broadband signals aren't strong enough to support the bandwidth required for secure transactions, people lacking appropriate knowledge, or people who prefer in-person service more than online banking. Next, over to Siddhant, who will explain the solution.
Thank you, Bhavya. So these aforesaid problems can be solved by following product, which its name is BK Info. It's a kiosk-like standing machine and an associated mobile app that will provide the following features: navigation through various services of that bank, waiting tokens to avoid long lines, info about requirement of various documents for specific tasks, information about banking stuff, details about availability of various bank officials, inbuilt voice announcement system, availability of text in regional and local languages. Now let's see the interaction design of the product. There will be feedback of user input using haptic, audio, and visual approaches. The machine will have multiple proximity sensors at different vertical levels. The machine will have a semi-cabin design so that only one person can use it at a time, and there is no scope of strangers peeking into a user's private info shown on the screen. There will be an option for people to change the display setting depending on their choice, and it will automatically come to default setting after the user has finished his transaction. Touch sensor along with buttons are given to navigate through different options. It will provide user message service to avoid long lines. Here, as you can see, is a model of the kiosk which has the following features. On the top, you can see there is a speaker to make announcement. It also has a message delivering system, a touch screen monitor and buttons which can be used as preferred by the user, and an adjustable stand which can help the user to increase or decrease the height of the kiosk. Now I will hand over to Abhay for further info.
Yeah, thank you, Siddhant. Now we'll be talking about the user experience. So the design will be aimed at providing a very minimalistic experience, meaning that it will provide only the relevant information at a particular step. And it will also have every language or the official language of India in its data set so that it can be used remotely in every part of India. And it will guide people to several steps throughout the function which they're using, except for the steps involving the private or the valuable information, which can be vulnerable to data theft. It also checks the availability of different officers and what kind of department they deal with. And it will also help in maintaining queues in banks, which is a major problem in India. And next slide, please. Siddhant? Yeah. I guess the previous slide. There's one slide. Yeah. So now we'll be talking about the usability and the user understanding. So the usability would be majorly for info gathering and aiding people for petty issues, which they have to, keep pestering the main officers, which is very inconvenient for both users and the officers working at the bank. It will change the banking sector, which is presently very labor intensive and human intensive, to a majority of its dependency on technology, which will save time. Now we come to the user understanding, which is on the same slide in the right side, that during the initial phase, there may be some problem for the rural and the semi-urban people areas, which they can be, very foreign to these type of technology advancements. But in the long term, it is very beneficial for the banking sector to save their time. A perfect example would be an ATM, which was only previously present in cities and urban areas, but now it is present in very remote areas like Ladakh or Himachal Pradesh, for example. Next slide, please. Now we come to the accessibility and the inclusiveness. So the accessibility was quite evident from the user base, which we have aimed at for providing the solution. And it would be mainly targeted for the rural and the semi-urban area, which are majorly untapped by the banking sector, as they are very much neglected by the technological advancement which comes in various sectors. And the inclusiveness. Now there will be several options for people with different disabilities. Sorry, inputs like haptic feedback, audio and visuals will be incorporated, as Siddhant previously mentioned. Next slide, please. And these are the bibliography includes some of the references which we have taken, and they are open for further studies. Next slide, please. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, sir, for providing us this opportunity through which we have learned a lot.
Very nice. So I think it's indeed a very nice thought and probably will be very useful. So any questions here? Very quick questions from anyone? Any questions for them? Okay, so if not, then thanks. I think it was indeed a good presentation. Okay, so next presenter, next group. Okay.
Hi,
Looks
everyone.
nice.
Our presentation is on an app we have all ideated together called Startup Solutions, which is a startup for startups. Next slide. Our team, so we are group 6_6, and our team members are Shubham Lal, Ayush Prusti, Anya Trehan, Himang Dhaya, and Ujjwal. Over to Himang now.
So the problems in startup these days are like lack of risk taking due to turnaround time or due to financial situations. They are often omitted or timed. Financing, individual financing, dependability, just as that of accomplice the business size association and finding the ideal time to contribute. Management, as a business starts to take the shape, it requires every bit of awareness to sustain the flow. Indeed, even from the beginning, an unmistakable outline ought to be a top priority to maintain a strategic distance from any irregularity in the inflow, which can enhance itself medium term to make things wide. Right matter, having the business sharpness, dependability keeps a stage in front of others. This is maybe a significantly more serious issue than the gathering of financing. Recruitment, experienced people then again don't want to include themselves with the hazard inclusion of new companies. It's a tough issue and a lasting issue, except if you have a committed and similar pack of friends. Lack of marketing strategies in India. Each state is interested in culture, food, language, outfit, etc. So what is moving in Maharashtra like hotcakes may stay immaculate in Tamil Nadu. An exhaustive learning of area, insightful need, and a down-to-earth advertise overview is most extreme significance before venturing into the hazardous ocean of new companies. Handing over to Shubham.
So the statistics about startups suggest how bad the situation is. In 2019, the failure rate of startups was around 90%. Research concludes that 21.5% of startups will fail in the first year, 30 in the second, 15 their fifth, and 17 their 10th year. These stats suggest that there is a need for a solution which we bring through our app. So basically what our app does is that it aims to create a collaborative interface for startups. It provides platform for accessing financing opportunities. It promotes positive impact on growth of small businesses and small scale startups who face problems with financing and management. Over to you, Anya.
This app will cover a lot of features to ensure startups get as much support as possible from our side, like video conferencing, finance and investor panel, profile search engine,
collab workspaces, chatting and interfaces, guidance help to help for emerging startups, and idea upvote panels. Next page. Mentored startups grow 3.5 times faster and raise 7 times more money. And easier access to financiers and investors results in a faster growth rate. Recruitment Cell assists the startups to find the right work experience to accomplish their motives. All of these are provided with our app. Over to you, Ayush.
Our app is the best place for you if you are a startup, an investor, a freelancer, or an industrialist. Our app is ready to accommodate new businesses and enterprises. For conclusions, collaboration has always been a concern since startups are always in competition amongst each other. Our platform initiates this process of working together in order to satisfy the user base and subsequently prosper as a startup. Successful startups would further possibly lead to the economic boost since the system would be very inclusive. We can hope that we provide all the help in order to the growth of startups as a society. Thank you very much. We are open for questions now.
Okay, so very nice animations. Yeah, so any questions from anyone? So one quick question, could you comment on probably the inclusiveness, accessibility, and probably all other usability, all those other stuff of your app?
Yeah, so our app will be accessible to most of the startups, and to include the disabled people, we'll design an interface which would include the haptics as well. So I don't guess it would be and we'll include voice recognition as well in order to make it more accessible to a diverse set of people using it. Plus, this is more oriented towards startups, so this is the limitation of what we can make accessible.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, if not, then all the best everyone for your midsem. I hope you will enjoy the midsem next week and recess week as well. So yeah, all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank
you, sir. So the platform for midsem will be Google Form only, like the quiz.
Yeah, so Suniksha is asking what is the syllabus. I don't know whether she listened to us earlier or not. So Suniksha, so we will be having everything which is covered till today as part of the midsem till chapter 4. Okay.
So the paper will be mostly MCQ format only, right?
Yes, all the questions will be MCQ.
Sir, the platform will be Google Form only, no? Like the quiz.
We will let you know. I mean, yeah, so I mean, right now I think we don't have any other options.
Okay, sir. Okay.
And sir, we have to join a Zoom call for getting the link for the quiz.
We will share more details. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Okay then.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.